information into somebody outside of the words. Let me give you an example. Assume you're watching a television program, a commentator make a statement. Senator Johnson is assisting in the local authorities to clear up the stupid mistakes of companies contributing to the nuclear waste problems. That's pretty clear. It sounds like a statement of fact, but if the speaker emphasizes the right word, and especially if he makes the proper hand gestures on the key words, you could be left with the subconscious impression that Senator Johnson is stupid. That was the subliminal goal of the statement, and that the speaker cannot be held to account for anything. So let's read it again. Here's a media commentary. Senator Johnson is assisting local authorities to clear up the stupid mistakes of the companies contributing to the nuclear waste problems. So when you're raising your hand and making your emphasis, they didn't give the percentage of people that they tested here that believed that Senator Johnson was stupid, not that the individuals cleaning up nuclear waste were doing something stupid. And it's that simple, brethren. I hope we all understand that. You're programmed, we're brainwashed, we're assaulted, and when you stand up to them and expose them, they hate you and eventually will kill many of us that are targeted because they explain things too readily. So, continuing, persuasion techniques are also frequently used on a much smaller scale with just as much effectiveness. The insurance salesman knows his pitch is likely to be much more effective if he can get you to visualize something in your mind. This is right brain communication. For instance, he might pause in his conversation, look slowly around the living room and say, can you just imagine this beautiful home burning to the ground? Of course you can. It is one of your unconscious fears, and when he forces you to visualize it, you're more likely to manipulate it into signing his insurance policy. Really. The Hare Krishnas operating at every airport use what I call shock and confusion techniques to distract the left brain and communicate directly with the right brain. While waiting for a plane, I once watched one operate for over an hour. He had a technique of almost jumping in front of someone. Initially his voice was loud, then dropped as he made his pitch to take a book or contribute money to his cause. Usually when the people are shocked, they immediately withdraw. In this case, they were shocked by some strange appearance, sudden materialization, and a loud voice of the Hare Krishna devotee. In other words, people went into their alpha state for security because they did not want to confront the reality before them. In the alpha, they were highly suggestible, and they responded to the suggestion of taking the book. The moment they took the book, they felt guilty, responded to the second suggestion, give money. They were all conditioned that if someone gives us something, we have to give them something in return. In that case, it was money. While watching this hustler, I was close enough to notice that many of the people he stopped exhibited an outward sign of alpha. This is talking about a brain wave state in their mind. An alpha state, their eyes were actually dilated. Subliminal programming. Subliminals are hidden suggestions that only your subconscious perceives. They can be audio, hidden behind music, visual, airbrushed into a picture, flashed on a screen so fast you don't consciously see them, or cleverly incorporated into a picture or design. Most audio subliminal programming tapes offer verbal suggestions recording at a lower volume. I question the efficiency of this technique. If subliminals are not perceptible, then they cannot be effective, and subliminals recorded below the auditory threshold are therefore useless. The oldest audio subliminal technique uses a voice that follows the volume of the music, so subliminals are impossible to detect without a parametric equalizer. But this technique is patented, and when I wanted to develop my own line of subliminal audio cassettes, negotiations with the patent holder proved to be unsatisfactory. So here's this Dick Sutton trying to get permission to use this patented technique related to hypnotism, and he couldn't. My attorney obtained copies of the patents, which I gave to some talented Hollywood sound engineers, asking them to create new technique. They found a way to psychoacoustically modify and synthesize the suggestions so that they are protected in the same chord and frequency as the music, thus giving them the effect of being part of the music. But we found that in using this technique, there is no way to reduce the various frequencies or to detect the subliminals. In other words, although the suggestions are being heard by the subconscious mind, they cannot be monitored even with the most sophisticated equipment. So, if we are able to come up with this technique as easily as we did, I can only imagine how sophisticated the technology has become with the unlimited government and advertising funding. And I should shudder to think about the propaganda and commercial manipulation that we're being exposed to on a daily basis. There is simply no way to know what is behind the music you hear. It may even be possible to hide a second voice to which you are listening. The series by Wilson Brian Key, Ph.D., on subliminals in advertising and political campaigns well documents the misuse in many areas, especially of the printed advertising in newspapers, magazines, and posters. Okay, the big question about subliminals. Do they work? I guarantee you that they do. Not only from the response from those who have used my tapes, but also from results of such programs as are subliminals behind the music in department stores. Supposedly, the only message is instructions not to steal. One East Coast department store chain reported a 37% reduction in thefts in the first 9 months of testing. A 1984 article in the technical newsletter Mind Brain Bulletin states that as much as 99% of our cognitive activity may be non-conscious. According to the director of the Laboratory of Cognitive Psychophysiology at the University of Illinois, the lengthy report ends with a statement: these findings support the use of subliminal approaches such as tape suggestions for weight loss and the therapeutic use of hypnosis and neuro-linguistic programming. So that's a nice summary. So I'd like to drop down to mass misuse, see how that works. Everybody understands that. I believe vibrato is a bit more unclear. So I'll read that. This leads to the mention of vibrato is a tremulous effect imparted in some vocal and instrumental music, and the cycle per second range that causes people to go into an altered state of consciousness. And at one period of English history, singers whose voices contained pronounced vibrato were not allowed to perform publicly because the listeners would go into an altered state and have fantasies, usually sexual in nature. And some of this goes back into actually 300 and 400 years ago, when certain keys, when you were playing music, you couldn't use diminished fifths or certain other keys that would have an emotional impact on the thinkers. So this goes back to Beethoven, and people are using diminished fifths in their music and that type of thing as to how dramatically affect your physical behavior what you were listening to. So people who attend opera or enjoy listening to singers like Mario Lanza are familiar with this altered state induced by the performers. Okay, ELFs. So this let's carry this awareness a little further. They're inaudible, extra low frequency waves. These are electromagnetic in nature. One of the primary uses of ELFs is to communicate with their submarines. Dr. Andrija Paruchek, a highly respected researcher, in an attempt to warn the U.S. officials about Russian use of ELFs, set up an experiment. Volunteers were wired so their brain waves would be measured on an ECG. They were sealed in a metal room so that they could not be penetrated by normal signal.